Welcome to Atheist Bible Study. Reread any book enough and you'll lose the meaning of the words and find the meaning in you. I've read The Stand by Stephen King 5 times, and I wrote a letter to Stephen King when I was about 14 where I think I said I wanted to marry him. Cute, right? Did I ask about God? I don't remember. The end of the world, maybe I thought that Steve would have the skills to survive if the grid goes down, as if writers would. On Writing came out about a year later. Everyone should read that book. Everyone. Not just people who consider themselves writers, but everyone needs to write. Steve got hit by a van after years of sobriety. When he was dying, he said, "Tell Tabby I love her." And I had already forgotten about the letter that I had written to him, but that was one of the most beautiful romantic expressions of love that I have ever heard. Like, his brain was dying, and she was like his last thought. She really is everything to him. I have a writer's toolbox in my brain and a really, really, really annoying subconscious stigma against adverbs, and a better understanding of my parents' struggles with addiction. These are the skills I need to survive. Stephen King is an excellent teacher. My Vatican II Catholic hippie parents were way more enthusiastic about our Easter rewatches of Jesus Christ Superstar than waking up for a Sunday Mass. In the Bible, Judas goes to the Pharisees and asks, "How much will you give me if I give you Jesus?" He doesn't sing, "I don't want your blood money," like in Jesus Christ Superstar. Judas had self-doubt. Andrew Lloyd Webber made Judas a more sympathetic character. He gave him a reason. Jesus' message was getting lost in the fervor of his divinity. Jesus Christ Superstar was considered sacrilegious because it asks, why? Who are you? What have you sacrificed? Do you think you're who they say you are? Jesus had self-doubt. He was aware of his mortality and scared of his purpose, as any of us would be. By the way, the Jews didn't kill Jesus. God did. That's why God impregnated a teenager in the first place and made her give birth in a barn. Lamb of God, sent to earth to be sacrificed. If you want to blame someone, isn't God the reason for everything in your book, Christians? Why don't you ask why? Because Judas hanged himself when he realized they were going to execute his friend? Is that why? I talk to ghosts way more than I talk to living people. Yesterday I was crying because I Googled, how did Carl Anderson die? He was the actor who played Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar. Leukemia in 2004. He was the same age as my dad when he died. Carl appeared to me sitting in my red velvet armchair I rescued from the curb, once belonging to my elderly Ukrainian neighbor Alexander. I thanked Carl for portraying such a deeply sympathetic character, so different from the Bible that Judas had good reasons for doing what he did. Carl smiled and said thank you, and that Andrew Lloyd Webber created Judas. I agreed and then said, "You brought him to life, and I think it's heroic that you were still performing when you died." I was 17 then, and I remember my dad being really sad. "Have you forgotten how put down we are?" Coming from Black Judas, that means a lot. He's got a right to be afraid of the cops. The Pharisees kind of were the cops for the laws of Moses, which were ancient by then. Jesus didn't really challenge them with miracles. He kind of just punched holes in the anti-logic of their hypocrisy. Clapping back at Jesus, the Pharisees drag in an adulteress caught in the act, and according to the laws of Moses, she must be stoned in not a fun way. I think they cut out the part where she says, "They dressed me up like this." Jesus just ignores them and stoops down and starts drawing in the dirt with his finger. And I started laughing when I read that part. I thought he was like trolling them, like, fuck you, dirt has more information than you. Actually, that's an ancient method of casting a spell. Jesus was communicating with his higher power, his own sense of compassion. He was on her level. He stooped down in the dirt where she was definitely cowering. And Jesus stands up and says, "He who is without sin among you may cast the first stone at her." And I can already feel Stephen King dissecting that sentence in his head. The Bible needs an editor. It sounds like AI with a head injury. But I really love that part. One by one, the Pharisees leave. "Who are you?" Then Jesus stoops down again and asks her, "Where are your accusers?" And she says something like, "No one, my Lord." And Jesus says, "Neither do I condemn thee." Then Jesus takes her by the hand, stands her up. He lays hands on her head for a blessing, and then she leaves. An unnamed biblical heroine, if you're paying attention. Take or leave the rest of the Bible. That's good stuff. Oh, and my favorite part, I love this, is when Jesus flips the tables in the temple. Oh my God. That's so satisfying. Oh, and it's in the same chapter as the almost stoned woman. And Jesus walks into the temple and finds just capitalistic corruption has taken over the house of his father. The Pharisees were selling animals to be sacrificed, basically a Bronze Age version of indulgences, a way to sin all you want and then buy your way into heaven. Poor women who struggled to afford a goat would end up buying doves. "Here, stab this dove, it'll fix your life." All that money went into the pockets of the Pharisees, while lepers starved and died in the streets. Jesus couldn't take it anymore. Jesus was out in the streets, walking in the hot sun all day, healing lepers, inspiring people to turn to God, doing their work for them. Jesus has had enough. And they were like, "Excuse me, we're stabbing doves here." So Jesus flips all the tables, opens the doors, and lets all the lepers inside. Then Pharisees throw rocks at him until he leaves. And Jesus just ignores them and walks out. That's badass. You can't solve all your problems by throwing rocks. "If thine eye offends thee, pluck it out, for it is more profitable for you to go to the kingdom of heaven with one eye than to be cast in the fires of hell." I love that part. Offended by what you see? Your eye is the problem. Pluck it out. That'll fix it. I love being able to quote the Bible at Christians, even though I don't believe in God. Oh, I can also recite Ezekiel 25:17, and that's not even in the Bible. I won't, though. Not on camera. I refuse to make money off of Harvey Weinstein content anymore. I've made all the money for Scorsese and Leo since I sent Leo the letter when I was 12 years old. And now I'm giving birth to all this writing in the barn of the 21st century. Except I think they would have fixed the sink in a barn. Whenever I need to explain how cannabis helps me, I visualize standing in front of a tennis ball machine, getting whacked by balls all day long. Weed, turns them into Nerf balls. I wish Jesus did that. Did Jesus really resurrect Lazarus? Or did he maybe just go in and provide health care that revived him from mostly dead? He anointed him with cannabis oil. That's in the Bible. Back before we were aware of microbes, it was tougher to care for sick people because you would definitely get sick too. Jesus knew he was going to die anyway. He didn't care if he got sick, or maybe he believed he couldn't because he was God. Either way, that family got their father back because Jesus wasn't afraid. Oh, Dolly Parton, please cover Herod's song from Jesus Christ Superstar. I will be your best friend forever. One of the most covered songs from that show because it's hilarious and fun. Herod does this elaborate song and dance trying to get Jesus to entertain him like a birthday clown. Jesus stands quietly and watches Herod's silly song and dance like, I don't have to fucking impress you. I identify with both sides. I feel forced to sing for my supper, yet I demand you show me your magic tricks. I am not here to be entertained. The silence is more telling than words. I don't want blood money, but it turns out if I'm earning any Hollywood money, much of it is ill-gotten. I don't believe in God, but I do believe in Jesus' work. Heal the sick, feed the hungry, care for the poor, and inspire the hopeless. My favorite thing to buy that I can't afford is food for homeless folks. I don't make a big deal out of it. They thank me, I say, it's cool. Then I walk away feeling good about myself. Like I've showed them someone cares. And I've flipped out at security guards for trying to stop me from buying food for homeless folks who stand hungry outside of a grocery store asking people to buy them food. Ever since, California's kind of stopped prosecuting shoplifters. It's just more comfortable to write it off. I was using my limited government food stamps to pay for food, and I still got hassled. I don't need to flip a table when I can unleash the Karen and go all white lady, how dare you. Go get the manager. She's useful for that. And she's got a lot of Jesus work to do. Bitch is mouthy. Is this Jesus work? I don't know. Am I helping? I'm trying to help myself so I stop running out of food stamps. Martin Scorsese considers this apartment that I legally can't be kicked out of to be his Jesus work, after threatening me on the phone the first time the sink flooded. Jesus wouldn't have done that. Even in the wrong accent. Don't praise me for spending my food stamps on food for homeless folks. I shouldn't have to. Jesus' work feels necessary. Hunger isn't a crime. No one has asked for food in a while because now they just walk into a store, take food, and leave. Someone has to do it. Or just stand there peacefully. Universal basic income would be the ultimate Jesus work, Joe Biden. Jesus understood the need for infrastructure, challenged the corruption of both the Jewish officials and the Roman occupiers, yet told a short tax collector to climb down from a fig tree, and then he invited himself to dinner. Jesus said there will always be poor, not because he believed there should be. I believe that Jesus' greatest power was listening. Everyone wanted him to have dinner at their house because he was cool and popular. But he also had a lot of good things to say. And he was very accepting. None of those useful traits come to fruition without listening carefully to people's thoughts and needs. I can see you're a true believer, Joseph. You pray with purpose and seem to understand that you're going to have to explain yourself to Jesus one day. Not only what would Jesus do, what would Jesus think? He really was a fair judge of character and was persecuted for making church officials look bad. They did that to themselves, and they had to shut him up. They turned his best friend against him. Then, how dare you not abolish capital punishment, Joseph Biden? Jesus would flip every lethal injection table. Are you goddamn kidding me? Please leave a tithe below. This writing is expensive. Team Orca.